Hello everyone, it's Aakash here. It's good to be with you today. We are going to dive into something that's been a hot topic in educational circles. Something that, when used thoughtfully, can truly transform our classrooms. We are talking about gamification. Now, before some of you perhaps inwardly groan or think, oh dear, another educational YouTube video. Let's approach this with a bit of academic curiosity, shall we? Gaming addiction have become rampant across the current generation. The students of today would rather play games than actually learn something. As teachers, we must realize that even something as bad and negative as gaming addiction, there is something we can learn. There is something we can exploit to make the learning process into a better thing. After all, that is why we teachers exist. We exist to make the learning process into an easier one. We exist to make the students learn. This is the reason why gamification is such a good deal. We are not talking about turning our classroom into an arcade, but rather we are talking about strategically applying some principles that makes games so engaging so that we can refine our learning process. So, why gamification? What's the big idea here? Well, at its core, it's about user engagement. Think about it. Games at their best are masters of keeping us hooked. It's why we develop an addiction. They tap into the fundamental human drives, the challenge, the pursuit of an achievement, the development of a skill, the constant progress, the satisfaction of a reward. Everything in the games drive our human instincts. Gamification essentially takes these elements and applies them to learning. First, we have to understand one thing. Everybody wants to be a hero. Every student wants to feel as if they are the hero of a movie. But most students don't understand that 99% of their lives will never be made into a movie. 99% of them will never become a big superstar. But the need exists. It's a psychological phenomenon of every adolescent teenager. As teachers, it's our aim to make everyone feel a bit like a hero, not in a movie, but in their own learning journey. This is where gamification comes into play, because gamification can make every student a hero. Let's analyze games further. Consider something like Pokemon Go. Regardless of whether you played it or not, you likely saw the phenomenon. Why was it so popular? Because it created an emotional connection and created a social group where the players can get a sense of belonging and recognition. Humans are naturally social creatures. We have developed to become social creatures. And games are excellent at capturing these emotions. They are powerful motivators. And if we can capture them in our teaching, we can improve the students' learning experience. Another crucial aspect is how gamification can help make learning into a habit. Addiction is a negative habit. Therefore, gaming addiction is also just a negative habit. James Clear, in his excellent book Atomic Habits, talks about the habit loop: the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. The reward we get from the process can make it highly habit forming. By incorporating game elements, we can build that reward cycle into learning, making students more inclined to engage consistently, and learn better. So, what is gamification precisely? It's the application of game design elements and game principles in non-game contexts, like you guessed it, the learning process. The main goals are quite clear. It's to enhance abilities, to introduce objectives that give learning purpose, to engage students, to optimize learning, to support behavior change, and to even facilitate socialization. Now, it's important to clarify something right away. Gamification is not the same as game-based learning. Think of it this way. Game-based learning is when the entire content is modified to fit a game. Let's take Snake and Ladders for an example. The game Snake and Ladders has so many moral lessons built into it that kids learn these moral lessons just by playing this game and listening to the elders speak. Gamification is not like that. Gamification, on the other hand, is about adding game-like features. Think about points, badges, leaderboards, and other game-like elements that are designed to tap into our human nature. The point here is to motivate students to take action and learn as a result. While intrinsic motivation is ideal, extrinsic rewards can play a role initially. We cannot just make students interested and habituated to learning. We have to give them extrinsic rewards, like the rank-based system we have in our schools. So, what are some of these game elements that we can use? It's not about making it a full-blown game. We are just transferring some of these positive characters that makes game into such an engaging and habit-forming processes, what we loosely call fun. This engagement is built on 4 key blocks: goals, rules, feedback system, and voluntary participation. We cannot implement any of these gamification mechanics without the voluntary participation from students. Beyond those, we have elements like achievement, strategy, mastery, collaboration, progress, and appreciation. Things like leaderboards, for example, can be a simple and effective way to gamify a learning process. The good news is there are many readily available softwares and platforms that can help us easily implement gamification in our classroom. Some popular ones you may have heard of include Quizlet for vocabulary and flashcards, Khan Academy with its progress tracking and badges, Duolingo for language learning with its points and level systems, Class Dojo for classroom management and communication with a reward system, and Kahoot for creating interactive quizzes and games. These tools make it much more accessible to start experimenting with gamification. Now, as with any powerful tool, there are potential pitfalls to avoid. If used incorrectly, gamification can inadvertently make students only motivated by the external rewards and less interested in the learning itself. This is where understanding the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation is crucial. Intrinsic motivation is when students enjoy learning for its own sake. Extrinsic motivation is driven by external rewards or even punishments. To see the most positive effects of gamification, we must prioritize and design activities that foster intrinsic motivation. The gamified elements should support the joy of learning, not replace it. We cannot just go, here's a game, you can learn stuff with it. We have to make sure that we are guiding the students through the process, Let's wrap up with a few key tips and takeaways. First, introducing reward systems can make learning satisfying. Introducing competition used thoughtfully can make learning exciting. Introducing goals provides a sense of accomplishment. Introducing team building encourages socialization. And leveraging e-learning tools can make learning interactive. Ultimately, when implemented well, gamification can truly create an addiction to learning in the best possible sense of the word. We are taking advantage of the addiction, and if we can get students addicted to learning instead of gaming, I'm sure we can help the students succeed in life. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this brief look into gamification has been helpful for our fellow educators. If you have questions or your own experiences with gamification, please share them in the comments below. And if you found this useful, consider subscribing for more discussions. I encourage you to explore these concepts and tools. Start small, experiment, and see how incorporating some game principles can energize your teaching and your students' learning. After all, we teachers exist to help the students learn